Well, for more on this story, I'm now joined live by Bristol-based British journalist, independent journalist Tony Gosling. Thank you very much for being with us. Now, everybody seems to be wanting to push their own narrative here, and now journalists are in the crossfire too. Do you believe there's any justification for putting journalists in the same category as the likes of ISIS?
Well, I think what it is about controlling the narrative. I mean, since the 1990s, when I was working at the BBC, there's been a massive consolidation of different outlets. I'm talking about newspapers as well as radio, television, even books and magazines into fewer and fewer hands. That's the main problem here, is that there's a handful of people deciding everything we see and hear nowadays. Let me just give you one example from the first Gulf War in 1990. I managed to get on the BBC in London someone who was a supporter of Saddam Hussein. And whilst there were eyebrows raised, some of the people in the office were saying, hang on, is this the right thing to do? Actually, that is good journalism. You want to have both sides of the point of view. But Andy Lack from the States has really given the game away here. I think he's from the Joseph Goebbels school of journalism, because actually journalism should be about showing different points of view, not just pushing one point of view. What he actually said, I quote him, is out there pushing a point of view. And is he trying to pretend that he's not doing that? I mean, he's from Bloomberg, which is the financial sector. We've also got here in Britain now Rona Fairhead from HSBC, who money laundering. In fact, she was on the risk committee of HSBC, now chairing the BBC. We've also got the Ofcom regulators, a new person in there now, deciding, oh, well, we don't need real competition of 4 different mobile networks today. We'll probably just be OK with only 3 mobile networks. So as you can see, it's all coming into fewer and fewer hands, which is really dangerous, because without that plurality, there's more chance of conflict actually arising.
Well, RT has also been listed as a concern for the U.S. media several times before. It was used as a reason to provide more funding to U.S. state media, Broadcasting International. Then the question beckons, is this then really all about money?
Yes, well, it's all about political control and controlling agendas. I mean, our secret services in here, Britain, for example, GCHQ, Edward Snowden has revealed that they are snooping on journalists. We've had just the other day loads, I mean, we're talking about hundreds of BBC journalists having their email accounts watched by GCHQ. This is not their job, and it creates a very, very stifling atmosphere for any journalist. I mean, it's really important for a journalist to be able to protect the source. And if your communications are constantly being monitored by the secret state, rather than the secret state seeing foreign countries as possible targets, actually turning their attention on the domestic population, you've got a really dangerous kind of climate emerging from it all. I mean, the sort of things we don't hear are things like this 1.1 trillion euros of quantitative easing. It's Europe's biggest ever counterfeiting operation, and we're not hearing that point of view in the media. We're not hearing that ISIS is being trained by NATO special forces and funded by Saudi Arabia. We don't hear that, and a massive amount of effort has gone in to making sure that those points of view do not get into the press. For example, also the Charlie Hebdo attacks. It's absurd to suggest that any kind of proper terrorist is going to even bring his ID card along with him to a terror attack, let alone drop it, forget about it, and leave it in the car. And this is exactly what we saw on 9/11. These kind of questions we're not hearing, and I'm afraid Andy Lack is part of the problem, not the solution.
Well, we're going to see if any of our compatriots will stand up against such name-calling journalists as terrorists. Thank you very much there, Tony Gosling, independent journalist.
Thank you.